Assalamualaikum and salam UiTM di hatiku. My name is Jaafar from KPA 2495A. Today, me and my group members would like to present about my group assignment, which is the topic is Islamic derivative. What is the meaning of the derivative? A derivative can be defined as a financial instrument that derives its value from value of its underlying asset. It is very often the variables underlying derivative are the price of traded assets. Next, the common form of the instruments of derivative include the credit derivative, equity derivative, index-linked derivative, and also the property derivative. Okay, now let me go through to the evolutions of the derivative market. Looking forward to the evolutions of the derivative markets instruments, the development was as follows. First is forward contract, second is futures contract, third is option, and the next level is the financial engineering, which is options and synthetic instruments, and also lastly is the swaps. Now, let me go through one by one all of it generally. Forward contract is a contract between two parties, which one parties want to buy something from other parties at a later date in a price agreed upon today. While for the futures contract, it is an agreement between two parties to buy or sell an asset at a certain time in the future for a specified period. Third is the option. Options is a financial instruments that convey a right but not an obligation to engage in the future transaction or on the some underlying securities or in the futures contract. It is in both of the exchange and in the over-counter market. For swap, it is a bilateral contract where the parties agreed to exchange a series of the cash flow at a fixed price, periodic intervals based on the underlying asset. For your information, it is an Islamic variant of the conventional transaction. In conventional swaps, it have been generally observed to be un-Islamic as they clearly involve interest in payment. Through the Islamic perspective on the derivative instruments, although they are much compliant with the Sharia compliant framework, but they also aim to produce a similar economic profiles to the comparables of the traditional derivative, but they must at least free from the 5 elements, which are first is riba, the interest, second is the rishwah, corruption, third is the maisir, gambling, fourth is the harar, which is the unnecessary risk, and fifth is the jahal or the ignorance. As informed, the most and the highly important that must be avoided is the harar and also the riba, as mentioned in the verse of Allah in the Surah Al-Baqarah verse 275. It explicitly addresses about the prohibitions of the riba in all the transactions.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is FAIRUZ Binti ABDUL BASHIR. In this video, I will continue to discuss on the second part, which is the features and also the Sharia principle in Islamic derivative. Okay, first we start with the features of Islamic derivative. All Islamic financial instruments in general must meet a number of criteria to be considered as halal or acceptable. Therefore, the first features of Islamic derivative is all the financial instrument and the transaction must be free from the at least 5 prohibited element, which is riba, rishwah, maisir, gharar, and also jahil. The next, second features of the Islamic derivative is the underlying asset and the commodity must currently exist in its physical sellable form. Okay, next we move to the Sharia principle of Islamic derivative, and this will include the opinion among the Muslim scholars. And I will touch on the 3 categories, which is permissible, non-permissible, and also the option trading of the Islamic derivative contract. Okay, first is futures contract. According to Imam Al-Haramaini Al-Jawaini, futures contract is permissible when it based on the darurah and the needs of ummah. However, Sharia Advisory Council of Securities Commission also accept this futures contract as long as the underlying asset and the commodity is acceptable or halal. However, most of the Muslim scholars are rejected when they found a contract that is not comply with Sharia. One of the examples is stock index futures contract. According to the Sharia Advisory Council of Securities Commission, Stock index futures are permissible at the beginning, but currently, Bursa Malaysia are more based on the stock index futures that has non-Sharia compliant stock. So therefore, it is not permissible and not approved by the Muslim scholars. Next, according to Ahmad Alam of OIC Islamic Fiqh Academy, he also rejected by saying that stock index futures contract are prohibited since some of the underlying asset and the commodity is not halal. Okay, last but not least, we move to the third category, which is the option trading contract. According to Ahmad Mahayuddin Hassan, he declared that the option trading contract is prohibited for two reasons. First, the maturity beyond 3 days as in Al-Firayat is not acceptable. And the second one is in the contract, the buyer has get more benefit than the seller, so it is injustice. While, according to Abu Sulaiman of OIC Islamic Fiqh Academy, option trading contract is acceptable when it viewed in the light of buy or own, but consider options to have been detached and independent of the underlying asset. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, my name is AMIRA Binti HARUN. Let me start the comparison between Islamic derivative instrument with conventional instrument. First, the instrument is proven. For Islamic, the money is not as a premium, rather it's a down payment on the price of the contract. The buyer pay the seller a deposit and have right to conclude or to cancel the sale. If the buyer continue to the contract within the time period, the down payment money become the part of the price to negotiate already. For the conventional, nature is a nature and the use of the option, such as the amount of the maisir. Hence, the option they use to achieve speculation, also the premium paid is impermissible. Secondly, is the instrument wa'ad. For Islamic, wa'ad are the two parties performing two unilateral promises on the same subject. Wa'ad contract, although valid and follow the Sharia and does not offer the initiative for the promises and can complete. For the conventional, among all the Sharia principle is not permissible to link to financial transaction in a swap contract, which they have two link operation that can take place. Last instrument is istisna. In Islamic, istisna is the nature and quality of the item to be specific. The manufacturer must make commitment to produce the item that described by the customer. Hence, the item can deliver to the customer. The contract may applicable after the beginning of manufacturing, except the delivery of goods not meet the contract terms. The payment can be made in lump sum at any time open or after the time of delivery to the customer. While for the conventional, the price is not paid in advance as well. And for the delivery, for the asset, can be completed as the property is manufactured only when the two parties have agreed on the term of the contract. The payment can use to purchase the equipment needed to manufacture the asset of good for the conventional. That's all. This is the structure of instrument. The Murabaha commodity structure. This is the flow chart of Murabaha commodity structure. Okay, firstly, a bank buy the asset from the broker A for 50,000 ringgit, and then bank sell the asset to the customer in fixed price plus profit, which is 50,000 plus 1,000. And then the customer sell the price, which are 51,000 price plus profit at the end of the contract in lump sum payment or the deferred date. And then the last step is the customer sell the asset to broker B for 50,000 ringgit to generate the cash. Secondly, this is the Bait Salam structure. Okay, this is the flow chart of Bait Salam. First, the buyer was paid in advance of purchase price to the seller, which is RM20,000, and then the seller delivered the commodity to the buyer at the deferred delivery.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, now I will continue
with the case study Islamic Profit Rate Swap. For the introduction, the Islamic Profit Rate Swap (IPRS) is a bilateral agreement between two parties to make regular payment to each other by exchanging cash flow from fixed to floating, or vice versa, within the same currency at agreed intervals payment dates. As for the structures, the fixed rate remains at the start of the contract and remains the same until the end of the tenure and agreed reset date. The floating rate is the reference to an index and is determined in at every settlement date. For the national amounts is never exchanged but only the net of amounts difference in each settlement date. There are 5 objectives of IPRS: to match funding rate with the returns rate from investment. Second, to achieve lower cost of funding. Third, to restructure existing debt profile without raising new finance or altering the structure of the balance sheets. Fourth, to manage exposure to interest rate movement as Islamic finance institutions still compete with the conventional banks for the market space. And last, to deepen Islamic financial market. For the case study, we choose Islamic Profit Rate Swap from Maybank Islamic product. The definitions for the IPRS and agreements between two parties to exchange a stream series of profit payments for another in the same currency over the fixed periods of time. The features of IPRS in Maybank. The profit payments are made through the executions of a series underlying Sharia compliance contracts. The profit payments made through the execution series of murabahah, which is sales of the asset with the cost plus profit contracts. In the swap product, they have one party pay a fixed rate and the other parties pay the floating rates. The products are free from the riba, rishwah, which means bribe, maisir, gharar, and jah. Now we go to the applicable Sharia structure in the IPRS. There are 2 structures, which is the commodity murabahah structure and the warrants. First, commodity murabahah structure. For seek to achieve the Sharia compliance by using the commodity murabahah transactions. Commodity murabahah transaction is a sale arrangement whereby a counterparty purchases Sharia permissible commodities from a suppliers at a cost price, then sells to another party at a markup price to include the counterparty profit margins. Commodity murabahah structure involved with 4-party transactions, which is broker A, broker B, floating rate payer, and a fixed rate payer.
This is the flowchart of Islamic Profit Rate Swap based on commodity murabahah structure.
Okay, second structure is the warrant structure. Warrant structure is the unilateral promise by each party to undertake a series of commodity murabahah transactions on the effective dates and each reset date for the life of transaction. The tenure of the IPRS Maybank Islamic is above 1 year. The amount for the IPRS is the minimum is 5 million or equivalents and the maximum is based on the customer limit. The currency that we use in the IPRS is multi-currency. The documentation in the IPRS Islamic Derivative Master Argument IDMA or Tahawut Master Agreement. Second, term sheet.
After reviewing the Islamic derivative from all the aspects, as a conclusion, the derivative plays an important role in reducing the vulnerability of the price volatility, reducing the trading cost, and also making investors open to a new market. In order to be halal, all the financial instruments must be free from the 5 elements according to the Sharia principle. That's all from us. Thank you.